Hello and welcome to Dog Podcast Network Live. I guess that's what we should call this. I'm James Jacobson in Maui, Hawaii.
And I'm Claire Mansell in London, England.
It is good to be back. We had a 1 week siesta. At least I was gone for a week. And it's good to be back with you live here, Claire. We just finished a production meeting for what we're doing this the rest of the year on Dog Edition, which is our flagship show.
And how was that 1 week siesta, by the way? You've just made it sound amazing.
It was nice. I didn't leave the state of Hawaii. I didn't even leave the county of Maui where I live, but I did go to a different island, which is only about 16 miles away. And it was beautiful and lovely, and I tried to disconnect as much as possible. And it was good, and I feel rested and ready to get back to work, which is what. And it came with a vengeance, because this is the first time I've actually been on. My wife and I have been on vacation since 2017. So a 1 week holiday, certainly by European standards, is not much.
Now, was this the hotel that we've talked about before that allows dogs? Because you've talked about you stayed in one before that allows dogs.
It is the sister property to that, because my wife and I were celebrating our 15th anniversary there, and so 15 years earlier we had gotten married on that island at the sister resort to that, and our dog Maui was, of course, a part of the wedding, and we're actually doing an episode in the coming months about dogs who participate in weddings. It turns out that a lot of dogs are actually being invited and being a part of weddings these days.
Oh, yeah, in fantastic and creative ways as well, which is brilliant. Yeah, so I'll talk about that in a minute, because I want to throw forward to some of the topics that we've got coming up over the next couple of months, because some of them, our listeners might want to contribute stories to.
Before we do that, though, we should talk about what's happening in Great Britain, where you are.
Yeah, this time just over a week ago, that was while you were away, and the Queen died, which still sounds extraordinary to say. We all knew it was going to happen. She was 96, for heaven's sake. But, it was still a really weird thing, and still a week on, it's seeming really weird. And I don't know if you've seen any of the press coverage of it, because obviously Monday is the funeral.
Yeah.
But
just a wee tad. It's everywhere. She was our queen too, it seems like.
Yeah, but the kind of the ceremony behind it is amazing, and I think all eyes of the rest of the world are on it at the moment. And there was some incredible pictures in the paper of the military out rehearsing for all the parade on Monday, and of course they do it at 5 o'clock in the morning. Because the roads are clear, and so there were these stunning photos of them out, and it was dark skies and yellow lights on in buildings, and then these red jackets as they were walking through the streets of London, and it was just incredible. And have you seen what they're doing with the flower donations and the gifts in the parks?
No, there's so many.
I thought I was alone with this, but you see them turning up at the parks and the palace with the flowers, and my first thought was, this is lovely that people are doing it, but it's awful, because what will happen eventually is a big truck's going to come along and sweep them all up, and they're all going to landfill. But somebody has organised, I don't know who, they now are going through all the flowers, and they're taking all the plastic wrap off all these flowers that are donated. And at the palace, they're actually stopping people and saying, take the plastic wrap off before you put them down. So now you've got this, very in keeping with King Charles III, of course, these wonderful, much more environmentally friendly flower gifts, which now no longer contain the plastic wrapping, which is lovely. And they've made some beautiful arrangements in the park. So yeah, you should hunt that out, because it is quite amazing to see.
That's incredible. I think the florists are quite happy, although I think a lot of people have flowers growing in their gardens they're bringing those as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I saw some comments on this thing about removing the plastic wrapping, of people literally saying, I just cut them from my garden and I tied them up with a bit of string, and which is lovely twine as well. Yeah,
it's extraordinary. It's an outpouring. And yes, we were all expecting it, but I think it came certainly suddenly. If we want to think about 2 days earlier, yes. Tuesday, she had received, I'm not sure if that's the right thing, but she had asked for the new prime minister to form a government.
Yep.
she looked fine. I mean, she was in her sweater, and she looked
Yeah.
she
looked 96, but
she looked 96, but she looked extraordinary.
yeah.
And then 2 days later, we get these reports that she's gone.
Well, I have to say that the one thing I have thought of over the years, and maybe this is just me working in the industry that we do, I was kind of thinking, how is this going to happen? Am I literally just going to wake up one morning and there'll be a sort of breaking news alert on my phone and that will be it? I never anticipated that there would be the kind of stage performance and theatrics and everything else that went on through the whole day. And I think possibly the media knew before the public knew, judging by the clues, so that there was such a build-up.
Well, I had read that there is a plan called London Bridge is Falling that had been on the books for 15 years.
Yes.
Which was all about the protocol and what would happen, and bit by bit, and then they would release the palace would release it as at the right time.
And in fact, I saw on Twitter somebody who was working in the emergency services who said how emotional it was when they heard over the radios, because obviously that's why it was in code, because they were using a public sort of radio system, and over the radio it came and they said London Bridge has fallen down, which sounds absurd, doesn't it? But
that is probably not the best thing. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So they had all been waiting for that sentence, but wow, it's incredible times. But Charles is very ecologically focused, so let's pin our hopes on that, because that's a marvelous thing.
He has some amazing causes that he's been involved with, and but the question that I think is pressing for all of us who are connected with Dog Podcast Network and all of our listeners is, what happens to the corgis?
I knew you were going to ask that. Well, I'll tell you one thing. We are working on an episode for Dog Edition, which is all about the corgis, and which I know I'm a little bit biased because I'm producing it, but it's absolutely fascinating, because there is so much more to the corgi story than I realised about the time of life that the corgis appeared for Elizabeth, and everything that was in that bundle, and just some great anecdotes about them through the years. So that's going to be an interesting story. When I did the interviews for that, I thought that maybe Charles would be taking on the corgis. So I did actually ask the Kennel Club how Jack Russells, which is what Charles has got, would get on with corgis, which was fine. But actually, no, they're going sort of back to Prince Andrew, because he actually had those, he sought out those puppies and gave them to the Queen. So they were sort of his, they started with him.
Well, that'll be an interesting thing to see how, if the corgis ever do see the
Jack Russells,
Jack Russell Terriers from the King, that could add to the whole intrigue of the royal family, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I don't want to give away too much from the episode, but there's a lot of interesting things about the history of the corgis, and the fact that a lot of people think that they are royal dogs, and well,
we will find out. This is all about teasing what we're doing in the future.
Exactly.
That's really interesting. I've seen some beautiful pictures of the Queen as a child when she got her first corgi, and I know that, I'm sure that corgis have become a lot more popular because,
well, we tell you that as well, and the things that affected their popularity. But don't let me give away anything.
Okay.
Now, I did want to mention a few episodes that we're working on, because as you say, we've just had this meeting, and I like to tease people so that they can go into their podcast app and subscribe, so that they follow, so that they make sure that they get these future ones, because we're currently working on one which is coming out next week, which is all about dogs and voting, which don't seem very obvious companions, but they actually are, and dogs in the political system, and that's really, really interesting. We have one coming up about dogs and the homeless, which there were a lot of sort of interesting aspects of that which I wasn't expecting, about how well looked after dogs are of homeless people and how they can affect their lives so much. And it's quite a moving piece. So that's coming up as well. We have one on dogs and loyalty. And I know Ray, who's producing that, if you have a cracking story about loyalty, I'm sure he'd love to hear from people. Yeah,
and you can get in touch with us through our social media, through our website, which is dogpodcastnetwork.com.
Yeah. And shall I keep teasing?
Yes,
or am
keep
I
teasing,
too much
teasing,
away?
keep teasing.
And Rosina is working on one about Argentinian dog shelters and one which is sort of breaking the mold and doing something so much better than the existing model of dog shelters, because there are lots of dogs on the streets in Argentina. So that's a nice uplifting story. And we've also got one on, as we were saying, dogs at weddings, which is coming up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we would be remiss if we didn't include the show that dropped 2 days ago on Tuesday.
Oh, sorry. So sorry. I'm just future looking. Yeah, so Hollywood dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and they're amazing dog actors. It's a beautiful story. We talk about what it takes to be a dog actor and what the challenges are for both the dogs and the people. And that's on right now. All of these are available on our feed. And you can find that at dogedition.com. We're in your favorite podcast app. Of course, we're also on YouTube. And we're in all places that you can find a podcast.
Exactly. And do you want to mention anything that's coming up on the long leash, or are you just going to leave people hanging?
We have a whole bunch of shows at Dog Podcast Network. And one of them is a program that I do. It's called The Long Leash, where it's a more traditional podcast, where I sit down with a newsmaker, a dog lover, someone who is news adjacent and in the dog community, and we have a one-on-one conversation. You can see and listen to all those episodes on longleashshow.com. We get some great interviews that have recently dropped, and then we're editing some that are coming out in the future. I think we did want to say one more thing. I wanted to encourage you, if you are watching this, hey, Dog Podcast Network is growing, and we are looking for more storytellers and journalists and even a social media person. If you're watching this on social media, I hear that's a thing these days. Please get in touch with us, and we'll find out how clever you are. But most of all, you can probably find us through dogpodcastnetwork.com or through one of our socials.
I mean, if the social media person can't find us, then they're really
probably
no good.
not worth their. They're probably on. What was that social media we used to use a gazillion years ago?
If they, what you mean, MySpace?
MySpace, yes, they're on MySpace.
Yeah, exactly. Or Bebo.
Friendster.
Yeah, Friends Reunited.
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Hey, did you not? Wasn't called Friendster where you were? You had Friends Reunited, right?
No, we had Friendster.
Oh, maybe they're the same thing.
I don't think so.
I
think everyone tried to do it. I wonder who won that race. Yeah. Although it keeps changing, and we're also, if you're a TikToker, let us know, because we have a tiny little TikTok channel, but TikTok's kind of a big thing, we know.
Yeah, exactly. And just before we go, I just wanted to plug the 101 Dog Stories thing again for audio storytellers. I can't even say that. Audio storytellers. Mm-hmm. So if you know of a good dog-related story, and you can just look back through our back catalogue of episodes to get some ideas of how broad our coverage is, then there's a chance for you to win. How much, Jim?
We're giving away tens of thousands of dollars. Everyone who gets and the odds of winning are awfully good. Everyone who gets selected wins $100, but then they're entered into a grand prize for tens of thousands. I think it's $5,000. I don't remember off the top of my head. It's so long, and we're very eager to give this money away. So apply, and again, that is an easy place to find out more about that, including how much it is. At
$5,000.
$5,000. I knew because I know the big figure, because we're giving a lot of money away, and I know the big figure. So you'll win $5,000 if you're the grand prize winner, and that's going to be composed of all the people who have won the $100 episode or pieces, segments. They're not episodes. They're segments. They're little segments that compose our network. And you can get all the details at dogpodcastnetwork.com/101. And it's sort of like 101 Dalmatians, but we know.
With less spots.
With less spots. I like that. So that's what's happening this week at Dog Podcast Network. Thank you for joining us for this live. If you have not heard any of our shows, check us out. And also, please tell a friend, because that's the way podcasts grow. We have a team of intrepid producers and storytellers and sound editors who are located all over the world who really love dogs. And we work every week to bring you interesting stories and podcasts. And again, all of that's at dogpodcastnetwork.com.
Okay.
Claire,
Do I get
take
to say?
care.
Do I get to say I'm Claire Manson in London, England, and then you get to say your bit?
I do. I think that's how we'll do this. Yes. So go ahead, say that.
I think I just did.
That's true. I'm James Jacobson in Maui, Hawaii. Thanks for joining us on this little live show. Hope to see you soon. Take care. Aloha.